Hello, everyone. This is John Dye on Mentorship Mike, and today we have Ryan Little with us. Ryan is incredible as an individual. He has done some great things, and we will talk about those in just a second. But the reason why we're here, I am with the Faith and Media Initiative, specifically over the Emerging Leaders emphasis area of that, where we're building the next generation of faith-filled media creators. And that's important because today, again, we're hosting Ryan Little. Ryan has spent decades in his film career doing some incredible things. And Ryan, I'm going to read your bio just so we can give people a little bit of taste, little taste of what you've been through. And we'll go as deep as you want to on any of these projects, but at least I want to give them a brief overview, okay?
Sounds perfect.
Ryan grew up in Vancouver, so you're a Canuck, right? You began working in the film industry there, production assistant. In 2009, you produced and directed Saints and Soldiers, which actually put you on my map. I didn't know much about Go Films before then, but you made some great strides with that film. You won 16 Best Picture awards, so we'll probably want to go into that a little bit, including 2 nominations at the Independent Spirit Awards. Since that time, you've directed multiple features, including Age of Dragons, which starred Danny Glover, Vinnie Jones, and Forever Strong, starring Sean Astin, Neal McDonough, and Penn Badgley. So those were 2 great films as well. You've since directed the SyFy Channel pilot Zeros and TV episodes of GRANITE FLATS and EXTINCT for BYU TV. You recently completed producing films for the Lifetime Network's Discovery Plus streaming platform, and you did Season 2, you mentioned you just barely finished Season 2 of HOMESTEAD on Angel Studios, the Angel Network. So congratulations. What a great career. It feels like that's multiple decades. How long have you been in the industry?
Well, I started, the very first set I ever was on was in 1988, 89. I was an extra on the TV show, not the movie, the TV show 21 Jump Street, starring Johnny Depp when he was up and coming. And then from there, I got opportunities to day play as a PA on 21 Jump Street, X-Files, and a lot of other random weird shows that came and went through Vancouver, and that's kind of how I got my start. But yeah, that would be 1988, 89 is the first time I walked on a real film set.
Incredible. So that would have put you probably mid to late teens, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I think I was 17 at the time, yeah. Okay.
So you were in front of the camera to start with?
Yeah, and you can actually see it. It's out there. It's season 3, first episode. It's the introduction episode to Richard Grieco, and you can find it pretty much anywhere out there. And if you just watch in the cafeteria, you'll see a very young, very skinny Ryan Little walking through the cafeteria, not looking at the camera, by the way. I was doing my job well. I actually made the cut. So anyway, yeah.
Interesting. That's great. Good to hear. So is that what kind of whet your appetite for film and to go a little bit deeper? Or where did that come from? Your dad doing 8mm films or family, or where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I come from a family of artists. My grandfather was a photo editor at Life magazine. My grandmother is a phenomenal pianist. My parents, my mom ran a camera store. My parents were photographers. We lived in Hawaii for a while, and they did tourism photography when I was very young. And my dad had a bunch of 8mm cameras and was always shooting everything. We have the best documented family growing up history on video and film, 8mm film that you can imagine. So that's a big influence there. And I wanted to be a photographer because, my parents were photographers. My grandfather was a photographer. And I was leaning that way. And then a couple things happened. One, when I was probably 10 or 11, my dad took me to see Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I didn't know who Spielberg was or anything. And I said, hey, whatever that job is, that's what I want to do. So that was kind of the first indicator that I was very interested in movies. And then in high school, I was the photo editor of the high school annual yearbook. There was a brand new video class, what were we shooting on? High 8 video tape, I guess. Yeah. And I took it just for fun, and I said, well, you know what? I kind of like this a little better than photography. Maybe I want to be a cinematographer. And that kind of that's when it really was like, okay, this is the career choice. I want to be in movies, and I think I want to be a cinematographer. So that's kind of where it starts. Yeah.
Interesting. Now talk about coming down to the U.S. because you were in Canada at the time,
right.
Young man. Yeah. What brought you down to, Midwest or Western U.S.?
So my dad is a New Yorker. He was born in New York, and my mom was born in Toronto. So I have 2 passports, so I can kind of just wander wherever I want between those 2 countries. Anyway, and so at that time, I had worked a little bit, on a few sets as a PA and everything. And Vancouver Film School was just starting. I took a kind of a boot camp workshop kind of weekend class. Maybe it was a week long, and I liked that, but they didn't really offer like anything beyond that at that time. And so somebody, I think I made a little short film or something, and somebody said to me, well, you know BYU has a film program, right? And I go, they do? And he's like, yeah. And they have like in-house film processing. They've got stages and all this stuff. And I was like, oh. So then I checked it out, and I was like, hey, this is great. You get a lot of hands-on experience, So that was kind of the deciding factor to go to BYU and be a part of the program. And I think, to be honest with you, I think I was there at like the best time to be there, because we were still in film mode. We were in-house developing transfers, the studio space, all the handed down equipment from the motion picture studio, the support of the motion picture studio, the internship programs they were offering, the opportunities to work on their projects. There was a lot of projects going on. It was very exciting, and it was a thrill ride. There was a lot going on, and so it was fun. I had a really good time in that program.
Yeah, that's great. Now, some people listening might not understand the BYU Motion Picture Studio correlation. Help us understand what that looked like at that time.
Well, at that time, the Motion Picture Studio in Provo is still there. They still use it, of course. But at that time, when you started the program, they required you to watch a bunch of movies, and then I'm just going to say it was 60 hours of volunteer time at that time in the program. And so I went down there, and it's a full-blown motion picture studio. It's not huge, but it's got 2 sound stages. It's got a Western town, if you will, a pioneer town. It's got multiple different buildings, vehicles, everything. I got it all there. And on the facility, there is a student facility for the students to check gear in and out. I'm not sure if it's still that way, but it was. When I was there, I worked there, got to test the equipment, fix the equipment, go out and shoot with it. So it was very hands-on. But yeah, the motion picture studio is, owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They use it for their own, internal projects and things like that. But at the same time, film students at the BYU program were allowed to participate, volunteer, and sometimes get paid. I got paid on a lot of projects too. And then just use the facilities, if they were available, for our projects. And so it was kind of amazing. In fact, when I interacted with other film students from time to time from other schools, they kind of looked at me like they thought I was lying. They're like, you don't have an in-house lab. I'm like, no, we do.
Really do, yeah.
We have 2 sound stages. No, you don't. Nobody has 2 sound stages. I'm like, well, no, we do. We've got 35 millimeter cameras as well. No, you don't have that. I'm like, no, we do.
Which
so
back
it was great.
then was huge. Yes, that was huge.
It was huge. Yeah. One other funny thing, I'll just say this real quick and then we can keep going. But my student film, The Last Good War, when we got nominated for a student Emmy and I went there, I was sitting at a luncheon before the award ceremony. We had no idea who was going to win. And we're sitting at this table and of course, all the usual suspects are there. You've got, UCLA and you've got AFI and NYU, and they're all sitting there and they're all kind of like being nice and we're having a good lunch, but these are all the people I'm competing against for the great, dramatic category. And they go around the room and somebody says, I'm from AFI. I spent $40,000 on my senior project, shot it on 35 and all this stuff. And they're just going around the room and they get to me and I'm like, so I shot mine on 16. I spent $1,500 and they're all looking at me like, well, he's not going to win. 'Cause what could that look like, And then I beat them all, and I think they were a little upset.
Yes. Yes. Well,
my little 16 millimeter film that I made for $1,500.
For $1,500.
Beat the $40,000 film out of AFI,
Incredible.
So that's a pretty special moment for me.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
And that, I think, put you on a lot of people's maps and kind of carved the path that you took, at least for the next 3 or 4 films, at least that I remember really well, the Saints and Soldiers franchise. So talk about that, though, maybe your time at BYU, but also that student film, because again, that I think did put a stake in the ground for Ryan Little. What did that do? You garnered awards, like you said, but also how did that influence what you did in your next few films?
Well, so my grandfather had served at Pearl Harbor in World War II, and so I had a love for World War II films. And when it was time to do a senior project in the film program, I wanted to do something World War II related. And that was a fun experience, and I was able to get a lot of resources to make it look much more expensive than it actually was, which was like catching lightning in a bottle. And that film did really well. I put it in a handful of film festivals. I won the Jimmy Stewart Memorial Award, which was amazing. His daughter gave it to me, and it was awesome to be there with her, and Student Emmy and a few other film festivals. And then what happened was, funny enough, I was still working at that time as mostly a camera assistant for people like Reed Smoot, T.C. Christensen, and a lot of the big cinematographers in our community, Gordon Lonsdale. In that process, I met I can't remember if it was a commercial or a movie. I don't remember. I know I was a camera assistant, and I met a PA named Adam Abel, and he was telling me that he really wanted to produce a movie. That was his dream. And I said, well, my dream is to direct a movie. And I showed him my short film, and he said, this is great. And I said, well, I have an idea for a World War II feature. And he says, well, I know some really rich people. And so we showed the really rich people my short film, and they were like, how much did you make this for? And we're like, oh, like $1,500. And they're like, wow, that's impressive. And then we told them our idea. And our strategy at that time was like, okay, we'll go in and we'll ask them for like $700,000. And if they say they can't do that, we'll say, well, we could do it as low as $500. So we go to the thing. They're very impressed by the movie. We tell them the concept that I had come up with for the movie. No script at this point. And they said, well, how much, do you want? And we said, well, we'd like to ask you for 700. We were like really scared that they were going to say, are you nuts? That's so much money. And then they went, no, you can't do this movie for 700. How about if we give you 900?
Wow. No way.
So we were like, what? So
twist our arms, right?
Yeah, it was great. So we did the movie for just under 800, and then we used the rest of the money because it took a year to do promotions and film festivals and just, take care of all of that. So that's kind of where the rest of the funds went to promoting the film. But so my senior project segued into Saints and Soldiers, which obviously was a huge success for me and opened up a lot of doors at that time.
Yes. No, that's great. Yes, and you ended up doing 3 in that franchise, correct?
We did, yeah. We didn't do them right away. The other 2 came later. The first one did really well, especially overseas, really, really well. And it was just later down the road that we kind of wanted to revisit. And we actually were going to do another World War II movie and not call it Saints and Soldiers Airborne Creed. But then distributor or something talked us into it and said, you know what, there's a brand there. Can we brand this way? And we were like, sure. Yeah, we could do that. So those are smaller films. I know it seems kind of weird, but those are smaller films, but equally as enjoyable to make. Yeah. And have done fine, did okay, made their money back and then some. But I think Saints and Soldiers, the first one, really exceeded our expectations by far. We had no clue. Because people would say, hey, how's your movie? And I'd be like, I don't know. It's watchable. And then people would see it and go, it's more than watchable. And I'm like, is it? I don't know.
Yeah. No, that was really well done. That I was like, wow, this doesn't feel like a local independent film. It felt well done, well put together, well written. Yeah. Matt Whitaker was the writer, right? And maybe Ethan
Matt Whitaker
Vincent?
Was the writer. Yeah.
Okay.
He was great. And he was at that time somewhat, I would say I have lots of mentors. I have a few that are like Matt Hamilton is probably one of my biggest mentors. Blair True, T.C. Christensen, Gino Salvatore. These are all people that I worked with. These are great people. Lots and lots of great people. But Matt Whitaker, even I had worked. He was an AD at the time, and I had worked for him a few times as well. as well. So in some ways he was a mentor as well. And when I told him about the project, he says, yeah, you know, I haven't written a feature yet. So yeah, I want to do this with you. And he did a great job. He really did. Yeah. I gave him a shoebox of all my ideas on 3x5 cards, and we sat down, and I told him the premise. I had the premise figured out, and I'm like, here's an idea. Do you like that? No, you don't like that idea? Okay, how about this idea? No? Oh, you like this one? Okay, keep that one. And so we took the stack of cards, and it probably got down to like, you know, pretty small, and then he kind of incorporated a handful of my ideas here and there. But the lion's share of the work is really Matthew, for sure.
Yeah. That great storytelling, the way you put it together visually. Just wonderfully done. We are getting some student questions, so I'm going to kind of maybe segue into some of those.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Maddie is asking, what's one detail about filmmaking that audiences rarely notice but makes a huge difference to you?
I think a lot of times when people are watching movies, you know, they're involved in what's all going on. There's like, sometimes a lot of movies are like really quick and fast. There's a lot of information to take in. And when they end the movie, you know, sometimes they're like, I just like that movie. And I don't know why, you know, and other times they'll see a movie that's very similar and they'll be like, I didn't like that movie. And I think it all comes down to, a story, and in the story, there has to be some relatable quality. And I think sometimes people feel that they're relating to the characters, but at the end of the movie, they can't verbalize what they like about the movie. But a lot of times, if you like a movie, if you really think about it, it's because you have empathy or some kind of connection to the characters. And so I think that's one of the things that people don't realize. They feel it. It's, you know, kind of absorbed or whatever, and sometimes they can't articulate what it is, but almost always it has to do with the relatability to the characters in the story. Yeah.
Well said. And speaking about that and story and how that is presented in storytelling, how do you decide, Ryan, if a story is best told as a film, a series, something shorter? You just finished Homestead, right? A series on Angel.
Season 2.
And Season 2. And you directed, I think, the last few episodes.
Yeah.
But you've also done features, and you've done shorts and other things. So how do you kind of decide how to tell that story?
Well, most of the things that either I have been passionate about or have got excited about have been features. Usually the television projects. I mean, Extinct, I guess, you know, was nurtured into a series in the development phase. I was a part of that, but I think when I see something and determine if it would better as a TV series, let's say, or a feature specifically, it usually has to do with, you know, how much of a story is there. A lot of times people will pitch like an idea that's acute for a short film or a moment, but it's not enough to sustain for 90 minutes, 2 hours. And so sometimes you try to figure out like, okay, well, is there a way to take a handful of short stories, let's say, and turn those into some kind of a series, an anthology or something? Like there's a lot of World War II stories, for example, that I think are great, would not make good features. They're interesting for about 30 minutes. And then if you stretched out, you just have a bunch of shoe leather and it would be the slowest, boringest movie ever. And so like, for example, that's something that I would like to see is a bunch of World War II short stories somehow woven together. Every episode is a short story, you know? And now actually, I will say this too, now with stream platforms the way they are, it's acceptable to do a dramatic series that's only 30 minutes long. I mean, you're not so structured now that it has to be 45 or 48 because of commercials or whatever. Yeah. Now it can be whatever. So that's really great. You know, you could have a whole series of World War II short stories or whatever that are much shorter. You know, it doesn't have to be a 30-minute comedy. It can be a dramatic piece. But yeah, when I evaluate a project, I ask myself, like, is there enough meat here, substance to sustain this, you know, for 1 or 2 hours or whatever. So that's kind of how I look at it. I don't think I overthink it more than that, you know?
Yeah. No, that's good.
And if something, like, for example, I have the rights to a couple books, World War II books, no surprise. And and I originally found one that was great, and it was an autobiography of all these experiences this guy had, and I tried to write it into a feature, and it was just missing. It was just too much stuff going on. And so I realized that it really could be a great series. You know, each episode could be his process going through the European theater. And so that was one of the times when I realized, like, there's just too much here to just try to cram it all into 90 minutes, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's kind of what I do when I look at a project, is I evaluate it kind of that way.
That's great. No, great thoughts there. We have a question. I just got this texted in, so I'm going to actually pull it up to make sure I get this directly. So this is from Rod. In your experience, what things should you never cut back on if you're working on a lower budget film?
Well, I'll tell you what, after doing this for 25 plus years, and I knew this to be true when I started, but for some reason it takes this long for me to really know it's absolutely the most important thing. Story is king. Script is the currency of our industry. The person who has the script that's really good holds all the cards. I wish that I had developed writing skills. It's great to be a DP, a director, producer. These are all things I can do. But I wish that I had, writing skills and then another skill. Writing DP, well, writing director obviously seems like a natural fit, but writing, producing, writing anything. But writing, if I can tell the students to do anything, is write like crazy, learn it backwards and forwards, read great scripts, just learn to write. And yes, you're going to write garbage for a while, but eventually you'll get it out of your system. So to answer that question, don't compromise on story. I'm sorry, this is the only analogy I have, so hopefully nobody will take offense to this, but it's like, if you have a script and it's a turd and you polish it with great acting and music and, coloring and all those things and locations, at the end of the day, all you have is a shiny turd in a box.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say
it. That's what you have, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't change the nature of it.
No. If you don't have the script right at the beginning, trust me, you're not going to fix it. I mean, you can make it better, but you're never going to get it good if you don't have it right at the beginning. So that's the thing. You definitely don't compromise. I will compromise on everything else, but not script. And I have pulled many triggers and done many films where we have started the production and shooting, and I know the script isn't where it needs to be. And then I'm not surprised when it gets, 4.2 or 3.8 on IMDb. I'm like, yeah, that's because the script wasn't good enough. And people say, hey, it looks really great. The acting's good, but this story's stupid. It's like, I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's interesting. You have worn multiple hats. You yourself just said that. Yeah. I would, going through your IMDb, director, producer, like you said, you're behind the camera. You've been in front of the camera, obviously, early in your career. Talk a little bit about the breadth and depth of what you've done and maybe some of the things that you enjoy most, right? Mm-hmm. You've been a producer on several projects. What part do you enjoy the most?
Yeah.
Is it solving problems? Is it the vision stuff? You talked about 3x5 cards with Matt. What do you enjoy, and where would you spend your time if you had your druthers, you had your choice?
Well, definitely if I had my druthers, directing. Directing is a collaborative art. Anyone who thinks directing is easy hasn't done enough directing or learned enough about it, because it's really hard. There's just too many things happening, and as you continually make products, you realize that you don't know as much as you're supposed to know. So you're constantly learning. I can fake my way through it pretty good, and people are like, oh, you're pretty good at this. You know how to do it. It's like, yeah, but I'm telling you internally, like, I'm realizing right now today, there's like 5 skills that I do not have a good grasp on that I need to work on. So, but directing, I think, is the most fulfilling. I enjoy producing. Producing's great because you are in the trenches with the director, the writer, the crew, everything. But primarily the producer's job is to put out fires all day long, and that can get tiring, Most of the time it's fun, but you're like, oh, guess what? Such and such didn't, they brought the truck to the wrong location. So now we're not shooting for 2 hours because, what are we going to do? Right. So it's a good skill set to learn. It helps you as a director, that's what it's good to, have that hat on and learn those skill sets, because it informs you as a director or DP. All of it helps each other, helps you develop skills. But it's not my favorite, but I still think it's enjoyable. And cinematography, that was my first love, and it transitioned into directing. I still do that. I mostly do it for people that I have a good rapport with and I know well. A friend who's doing a first movie, let's say, or sometimes if the budget's low, I will direct and DP if I can. But primarily, I don't go out and try to find DP work. And I love it. One of the greatest things about being a DP is that you get to work with different directors and people and watch and learn from them too. And you see things, oh my gosh, that is brilliant. I'm going to steal that and shove it in my toolbox. Or, wow, that is so not the right way to talk to an actor. Nope, don't do that. Yes. So it's fulfilling too, but in a different way. And sometimes people are like, well, how do you, when you DP for somebody, how do you turn off the director? And I don't know. I can just do it. I don't sit there and behind the camera and be critical of the director. I really look at it. How do I support their vision as the DP and try to stay in my lane, and let their choices be their choices. So I am able to turn the director off in my head, or the producer off in my head. I somehow I'm able to just flip switches. So
that's a great skill. Skill.
Yeah.
I think, you did some DP work with Garrett Batty on Faith of Angels recently, right?
I did, and that's perfect. That's a perfect example of somebody saying, "Hey, we've worked together before. Would you be willing to work with me on this?" And because I knew Garrett and had worked with him before, I was like, "Yeah, I enjoy working with you, Garrett. Yeah, let's do that." And we had a great experience together. I really enjoyed shooting that movie. It was fun.
Awesome. Okay, Ryan, we would be remiss if we didn't bring in faith and media a little bit here.
Yeah.
So let's lob a softball to you to start off with. Being a husband and father, how is that shaping the way that you want to tell stories and the types of stories you want to tell?
Yeah, I think early on, again, looking at Raiders of the Lost Ark and things like E.T. and back in the 80s, things like The Last Starfighter and Labyrinth and all those things that came out of the 80s, that was kind of the space that I really liked. And I felt like that was in line with my morals, my belief system. And then as I started to have children, I wanted to make films that they would enjoy. Because I like the co-viewing experience. I really enjoy that. And so, I did a kids movie called Outlaw Trail. Specifically, I was excited to do that for my kids, and put all the things into that movie that they would enjoy. And so I was really kind of focused on that early on. Family entertainment sounded fun to me. October Sky, if you've ever seen October Sky, that was a big one for me. Like when I saw October Sky, I was like, that's it. Oh man, I wish I could have directed this movie. So things like that resonate with me. Even today, what was it? Forgetting the name of it. Shoot. The Green Book. Am I thinking that right? I'm blanking on my name.
Not The Green Mile, right?
Not The Green Mile.
Okay.
And just these there's a handful of these movies that are just kind of feel good, based on historical event type stories. October Sky is that way. Hidden Figures is that way. I really like those movies. They inform you, they educate you, but they also entertain. Scott Swafford, who used to be one of the people that used to run BYU Television, he would say to me when thinking about programming, he's like, you want to give them the pizza, but you want to sneak a little broccoli in there too. So I always think that way, like, is this fun to watch? But at the same time, what can I inspire people with, or what can I educate them on? Not that the people need to be educated, but you know what I mean? Like, what's something that's important to me that I want to put into this work that I think could benefit them, or at least start a conversation after seeing the movie? Those are the films that are the most fulfilling.
Yeah, wonderful. Knowing that, have you ever been approached with a project or projects that you just felt, this isn't for me? And it might have been because creatively you saw differently, or morally you were on a different foundation or something like that. Has that happened to you?
Yeah, there's been a handful of times, especially early on, after I did Saints and Soldiers. And at some point, by the way, I do want to share the story about the studio experience with Saints and Soldiers, because there's a very important lesson I learned, but we'll come back to that. Yes, there were projects early on that, because I got representation very quickly in Los Angeles, and there were projects where I'm like, you've seen my movie, right? You think this movie is on brand for what I want to do, So I think I frustrated my representation a little bit at the beginning, because they had brought me some things that were action oriented or whatever, but were very much more adult oriented and were uncomfortable. And I passed on them. There's a few movies I will tell you after we're done that I was asked if I wanted to do, that I passed on, but I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it.
Oh, okay.
For public record, but I will tell you, and you'll be like, "What?" Wow. So anyhow, So yes, and more often than not, I usually say no because it just doesn't. Yeah. It's not something that I would want to watch anyway. It just doesn't. I don't want to be known for some of those projects. So
sure.
Yeah, there's been a handful of those, but kind of when you start to establish yourself and people get to know you, then that becomes less and less of what people ask of you, because they kind of know, like, this is kind of your zone, and so they kind of stop asking.
You attract the work, right?
Yeah, you attract the work. Yeah, you got to go where the love
matches
is.
Your ethos.
Yeah, exactly. And so that really hasn't been an issue for a long time for me.
Okay, good. Interesting.
Yeah.
Adam asked this question, and it ties into what we're talking about. And then I want to hear that story, because I don't want our time to expire.
It's a life lesson. It's a life lesson for all the students.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Adam is asking, when you look at your career so far, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish it was something that I had done recently. I would say, I'm going to say Saints and Soldiers. I know it's my first of 10, 11 movies. It's kind of a bummer to say that I made 10 movies after that, but the one I did first was my favorite. We caught lightning in a bottle. I'm not going to pretend like I knew what we were doing. I mean, we knew to some degree because we've been taught, but we were, we were swinging for the fences, It's a little bit like Spielberg shoots Jaws and he's not sure what he has, and then Verna Fields has to fix it. It was a little bit like that. But just, I say Saints and Soldiers because I felt strong about the story. It was my idea, the original idea. I was lucky that I hired the right people to help me with it. People still talk about it, bring it up. Forever Strong is probably the movie that most people outside of the Utah community are familiar with. It had the biggest reach because it was the biggest budget. I think it was almost $5 million. And I love that movie too.
Which for the time, that would be what, 9 or 10 in today's dollars?
Yeah, it's probably double, probably, yeah. Which I loved too, which was great. We had all the toys and everything, and that was amazing. But I think I'm more connected to Saints just because I had an idea for a story where Forever Strong is a great story about Larry Gelwicks and the Highland rugby team, and the people who were involved were great. But that was brought to me as a gun for hire type thing. So even though I was invested in it, I wasn't as invested timeline wise as I had with Saints and Soldiers. So that would Saints and Soldiers is still my baby for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. Well, I want to hear that story because I did have a question. What do you want younger filmmakers to take away, right? Understand about the industry. This will probably dovetail into that. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm just going to reiterate this first before I tell the story. So guys, like I'm telling you, story is king. Story is the currency of our industry. Learn to write, because that is going to be your best ally when it comes to getting work, especially if directing and producing is your goal. Learn to write. Read everything, all the podcasts, read all the good scripts, just dig in, even if you hate it, learn it. You got to learn it because When there isn't any work, you should be writing. If you're not reading, you should be writing. And if you wish you could make a movie and you don't have any money, guess what? You know, either go out and shoot with your iPhone, just whatever, just to shoot and be creative, or sit at a computer and write the movie that you can't afford to make because you still technically have made it, you know? So that's the thing I want to double down on that. If there's anything that the students need to know, it's learn to write. I'm telling you, that's the one big regret that I have that I didn't learn 25 years ago. Okay, so here's the story. So, and we might be talking about this a little bit later, about the diversity of my work. If you look at my work, you'll see, oh, he's got a comedy, he's got an action, he's got a horror, which isn't very much of a horror, but a sci-fi, you know, I've got everything. Well, you think that's great. You think that would show a broad ability to work in a lot of genres and you'd be good for every kind of movie. Well, that's not how it works in Hollywood. That's like the kiss of death. And I didn't know this at the time, and nobody explained it to me. So I'm going to explain it to you right now. So after Saints and Soldiers, I got an agent and a manager in LA right away. And I got a lot of meetings. You name the studio or the production company, I had a meeting. And I never had representation before, had no idea what I was supposed to do and say. And so my agent and my manager were like, okay, when you go in, they're going to talk about your movie, you know, tell them how much you love it, you know, why you did it, you know, answer their questions. And then it's going to pivot and they're going to ask you, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, okay, and what do I tell them? Because I don't have anything. And they're like, just tell them like, hey, you know, what do you guys have anything that you think I might be good for, you know? Because they might be sitting on a great script and they might be like, oh my gosh, you're the guy, you know? I said, okay, all right. But then of course they would ask me what I'm interested in. And of course I'd be like, I don't know, you know, I like Jaws and I like Blade Runner and I like this and I like that. And, you know, and I'm, what's happening is I'm confusing them, but nobody's explaining to me that I am now seen as the World War II guy. That's all they know that I'm capable of doing. And so when I'm talking about, oh, you know, I think it'd be fun to do a kid's action adventure movie, they're like, okay. And in their head, they're going, I don't know if you can do that. I know you can do a World War II. You just did that. And so this would go on for years where I just really didn't get any studio films. Or if I did get offered something, it was something I was uncomfortable about and didn't want to do. I had a few of those.
Basically, you were typecast as a director, right? As a World War II guy.
As a World War II. But the thing is that nobody was communicating that to me. Like, hey, you're the World War II guy. Like, why aren't you doing another World War II movie? Like, no one, they all knew what they wanted me to be, but they weren't verbalizing it. And my agent, my manager weren't telling me like, here's the problem you're going to run into, you know, because you're only the flavor of the month for a week. The window is tiny. And you have to be ready to strike, because when you have those meetings, those 15, 20-minute meetings, if they don't strike a deal or really are engaged with you, guess what? 2 days from there, they don't remember who you are. It's over. And you're not going back there again to have another meeting most likely. So I'm going down this path of all these movies. And I went to a DGA event, and it was about how to cut your reel to get into television. I'm like, oh, I'll go to that. And so they asked you to cut a 2-minute reel of whatever you felt like would be impressive to show a showrunner or producer of a TV series that you might want to work on. And so we listened to the panel, and they break us off into groups, and each group has, you know, 5 or 6, you know, students, the people that came to participate with your 2-minute reel. And there was a showrunner and an agent there. It was an agent from Gersh, and the showrunner from Young Sheldon was in my group. And luckily, I was kind of at the end of the row, so they were kind of going around, and my reel was going to be last. And the first reel was like some AD from some big show, and it looked like she had shot something with her iPhone with her kids in their backyard. And I'm like, oh, that's terrible. That is terrible. The next guy was a music video guy, and he shot these weird music videos, and I was like, I don't know how that works. You know, I was getting really confident in what I had to show. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna kill this. So they go around the room, they get to me. My movies got, my trailers, my reels got explosions and famous people and crying and tanks and, you know, all the things. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. And I can see it in the faces of the other students. Like, oh, geez, like he's got real experience, you know.
He's got it.
They turn it off, and the guy from Gersh goes, I would never, ever show this reel to anyone. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, cool. You got comedy, there's so much stuff in there. I'm like, but they go, it looks beautiful. I mean, we see you work with real actors and big productions, but if I showed this to someone, they would not hire you. And I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying to me. He's like, you have to pick one genre. You have to pick one lane. And when your career takes off or when you start, you have to be that. If you're not that, you're just going to confuse everyone. And I was like, and all of a sudden it all went slow-mo, and I was like thinking about my career linearly, and I'm in a linear form, and I was like, misstep. Not to say that the movies were bad or anything, but I was confusing the industry by doing that. And so I thought that was weird. I thought that was interesting. The showrunner said,
YouTube channel, right? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
You literally have to choose a niche and go deep, not broad. Because if you do everything, you do nothing, right?
Yeah, and of course, there's always outliers. I'm sure there's a student listening right now, like, no, wait a second, blah blah blah, did this, and this. It's like true, but if you want to play the game safe, that's what you need to do. So I needed to stay on the World War II trajectory, and I didn't know that. And by this is like 20 years after I had done Saints and Soldiers, and it was really and I was like, I kind of know this to be true, but now I know this to be true. Like, finally, someone is actually saying it to me the way I needed to hear it. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is, at some point, I was watching something on social media, or maybe it was an interview. It was with Christopher Nolan, and it's out there. You can go search it and find it. And he's talking about his movie at Sundance. I think it's called Following, right? It's his little black and white movie he made for $30,000, $40,000. And it showed at Sundance. And, of course, just like me, I think he sold it at Sundance too, which was also great for him. But he started getting a lot of meetings. And in this interview, he says, I went to these meetings and I don't know what I'm doing. And he says, they said, well, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, there's that question. What are you going to do next? Yep. I totally relate to what he's telling me right now. This is exactly what happened to me. And he goes, when he's like, well, I got this thing called Memento in my back pocket here that I wrote. It's kind of like Following. And he goes, had not had Memento in my back pocket, and had it not been similar to Following, I don't know what kind of career I'd have right now. He goes, and that was by chance. Nobody instructed me that way. And I'm like, yes, see, that's what needed to happen. I needed to go in. They said, what are you going to do next? I'm like, well, I've got this World War II movie, and I guarantee you that if nothing more, it would have been a development deal. Somebody would have said, well, you just did Saints and Soldiers for $780,000, $800,000. What do you have there? Let me read that. This is good. What if we gave you $6 million?
Yeah.
And now I'm doing a movie at Sony, another World War II movie.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been
Private Ryan, maybe.
Well, I'll leave that to Mr. Spielberg. Yeah, but maybe, but truthfully, maybe an episode of Band of Brothers. Maybe I would have gotten his attention, and he said, "Hey, do you want to, do an episode of Band of Brothers?" I don't know. Yeah. So that was a misstep for me, a huge misstep. So that's one of the things I want to make sure the students understand, that when you do your senior projects and you go out into the world, I hate to say it, guys, but you really should pick a lane, stay true to it. Now, eventually, if your career takes off, then you get to a point where it's you're the brand, and you can do whatever you want. Spielberg can do whatever he wants. If he wants to do an animation, he can do an animation. If he wants to do a comedy about two people in a terminal at an airport, he can do that. If he wants to do a war movie, he can do that, because he's Spielberg, and because, but if you look at his early films, they're not drastically different. They're all kind of in the same zone. Duel, Jaws, they're all kind of, relatable, and of course he makes millions of dollars in the box office, which also helps to let him do whatever he wants too. So, but pick your lane. That's the lesson. Learn to write, pick a lane. Those are the two things, guys. Story, pick a lane.
Pick a lane. Yes. It's almost like chess, right? Like you said, you need to know your next 3 moves or 5 moves.
You have to. Yeah.
Have that in your back pocket. They'll eat you up in Hollywood.
Like they'll eat you up. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, we are going to love that, by the way. Great advice. And that may be some of the best advice said most succinctly on this whole series. So thank you, Ryan, for that. We're going to do some quick hits. This is
Sure.
called the Mentorship Mike Micro Musings. So
Okay.
20-second answers.
Okay.
I'll just ask you
Quick.
some quick questions and we'll go from
Yeah.
there.
Okay, I'll try my best.
One word that describes your directing style.
Emotional.
Okay, great. One word that describes your filmmaking philosophy.
Engaging.
A project that changed how you see storytelling. Now, this could be something you were involved in or something you experienced as a member of the audience.
Something more recently. Good question. Jeez, these are hard questions. There's so much good stuff out there. I don't know. Probably like, gosh, I don't know. I just don't know. There's so many movies. I'm gonna say October Sky, but that was a while ago. But
Okay.
but definitely that was
good.
something that really taught me the importance of story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is a lesson, besides what you've shared,
Yeah.
a lesson a young filmmaker should learn early? You gave great
Okay.
thoughts, which is storytelling,
Yeah.
right? Writing
Yeah.
and, pick a lane.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? If a 22-year-old is going to Hollywood today,
Yeah.
what would you say in addition to those two bits of advice?
Okay. I got a third one. Okay. The third one is the word networking. Networking is essential to your success, but what networking really means, or the way you should view it, is friends hire friends. So think of networking as building relationships with people that are your friends, because that's who's going to hire you. And as you go out and as you continue to look for work, hopefully you create your own work and bring it to the table sometimes, but follow the love, meaning go where people want to invest in you. Don't invest in people who don't want to invest in you. When people invest in you, those are the people you want to invest with. And when I say invest, I'm talking about your time and your talent. If you stay in that zone, you'll have the best journey. Start knocking on doors and trying to meet people that you think are awesome, that could care less about you. That's just a waste of time. So chase and follow those that want to invest in you.
Wise words. Thank you. Also, what's a quality that every great director needs, in your opinion?
I'm thinking of a lot of E words today. Ask me one more time. Sorry, let me just think about this one more time.
A quality every great director needs, in your opinion.
Collaboration is key, for sure. You have to have the ability to collaborate. Yeah, Don't be a dictator. It's good to have an opinion, about things, and lead with a sense of a certainty, right? But also be willing to listen and collaborate with everyone. Best idea always wins. Best idea always wins, and it doesn't have to be your idea,
regardless of where it came from. Yeah, love it. Love it.
Yeah.
And give us one career highlight you will never forget.
Oh gosh, one career highlight I will never forget. There's probably a handful of them. One time we had done this kids movie, and we wanted John Voight to be in it, and he declined. I don't know if it was the money or his schedule or whatever. But the funny thing is 2 years later, when we were receiving an award for that movie, ironically, he was the one giving out the awards, and he said, "Wow, this is such a great movie." And after he'd given us the award, and I said, "Yeah." And we offered the part to you, and you said no. And he said to me, "Wow, I blew that, didn't I?" So that was pretty cool. That was pretty
awesome.
cool. Yeah,
That's
that was
cool.
pretty fun.
That's incredible. Good. We've got another question from a student, Khaleesi.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it ties into some of the things you said earlier, and that may have been impetus for this question. What kinds of stories or characters are you most interested in bringing to life next? We talked about pick a lane. We've talked about what's your next project.
Yeah.
So what is, Ryan, you just finished 2 weeks ago or something, some of this series, Homestead on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, what is next?
Again, I'm so focused on story right now that I'm always trying to find things that are engaging and interesting to me. And as you go through life, you change as a person. The person you are now is not the person you will be in 25 years from now. Just heads up, guys. You are going to morph and become a different person. You'll still be you, but you're going to have life experiences and everything that are going to turn you into a different person and hopefully a better person. But at my age and where I am in my life, I'm really, and I was kind of like this way at the beginning too, but I'm maybe coming back to it now. I really like telling stories about real people. I love true stories. I really do. I think fictional stories are great and they're fun, but there's something edifying about honoring someone for the things that they've done, and bringing that to life. And so I'm always on the search for that. And I do have a hunger, now that I've kind of gone all over the map, wandered around, tried everything. I really do love the military type films. I like the idea of humanity in war. I like the idea of people trying to be good in really dangerous situations. Because when you're in a dangerous situation, it's really hard to do anything else besides try to just not die,
Just to
but
survive,
then to go out of your,
right?
and to go out of your way and to help another person, get in line of fire and save that person. That's so amazing to me. So there are a couple projects in development right now. A World War II story about Dale Dye that we're developing, a story about Free Burma Rangers that's being developed right now. They're both based on true stories that I would love to see happen next. So yeah, that's kind of where my attention is right now for feature work. And of course, I love directing television. It's a much different animal, different set of tools and things. And I love that because it's fun to work with new people. But primarily, yeah, I love telling true World War II stories or military type stories. At least that's kind of where I'm looking right now.
Yeah. And you are so talented there. I will be the first to say.
Thank you.
Ryan, this has been wonderful. I know we're reaching the end. One thing I always try to do, though, is give you the last word.
Sure.
Knowing that our audience are young creatives that eventually might sit in your seat, hopefully take that torch of light and truth and goodness that you are holding and step on your shoulders and hold that even higher for more to see.
Yeah.
What would you share with them that you haven't shared so far? What haven't we discussed that, if you have a platform, which you do right now for the next 5 minutes if you want that much, what would you tell them? What do they need to do to know that there is a way to navigate Hollywood, and keep your faith intact, right? Keep your ideals, keep your morals, have that foundation.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Well, I would say be aware that, and as I'm sure you have all noticed this, that the industry is constantly changing. What was possible and available to do when I started, was by today's standards somewhat limiting. And now we're expanding. We have streaming platforms. We have YouTube. We have, the world has become smaller through all the technology we have. And so I think as you try to figure out what to do, try to empower yourself to tell the stories you want to tell with whatever means you have, when I started out, shooting on a cell phone wasn't, I had a Nokia phone. You can't shoot on a Nokia, phone. Yeah. It doesn't do anything. But honestly, you could go out, and you've all heard this before. You could literally go out with your iPhone, and shoot in the good lighting conditions and get a couple of, little lobs and hide them and make a movie for nothing, and then edit it on DaVinci Resolve. There's a free version of that, and kick out your movie. So there's no excuse on making movies. And if you're not making a movie, you should learn how to write and write scripts. There's all these ways to have creative outlet. And so you can really, more now than ever, set the path, the journey you want to go on. It's just, there's just so many more avenues now for you guys. Yes, there's a way more competition. And so find your niche, find the thing that you want to be known for, and go on that path, and while you're going down that path, help others with their projects, build invest in the emotional bank account of others. The people that invest in you, invest in them. Give your time, help them on their projects. Even if their projects aren't the kind of films you want to make per se, just help them. Be there to support them, you know. It's going to come back to you tenfold, you know. It's all about return on investment. Whatever you spend your time on, whoever you invest your time with, whatever you go after, whatever you write, whatever you create, think about that return on investment. And it may not be financial gain. It might be spiritual gain. It might be educational. It might, you know, be an opportunity to open a door, a Trojan horse, if you will, into other groups of people that you're interested in, or transitioning, say, from maybe doing features into television or TV movies or documentaries or whatever it is. And as you do that, you know, always ask yourself, you know, as you're quietly driving to set, or what I do at lunch a lot is, like, at lunchtime, everybody rushes off to go get lunch. A lot of times I will go and sit somewhere quietly and just by myself, just process in the moment what I'm working on currently. And does it align with, am I grateful for where I am? Besides, of course, you know, providing for my family and having a job at all is awesome. But is this aligning? Am I moving in the direction that I want to, based on who I am as a person? What makes me up physically, mentally, spiritually? Is this good for my soul, I guess? You know, ask yourself that. Check in with yourself and ask yourself those questions. And everybody's journey is different. I can only give you, share it with experiences with you and the things that I learned, and then you can choose to apply that or take a piece of that or whatever. But your journey will not be my journey. John's journey is not my journey. My journey is not John's journey. There's just, everybody's on a different journey. There'll be some crossover, but there's not one thing that I can tell you that is going to keep your, you know, who you are intact. Like, you're on a different journey than everybody else. So, you know what's true to you. You know what your soul needs. You know, spiritually what's guiding you. And you just have to feel that and lean into that, and then make a choice, you know, and then when you make the choice, commit to those choices and do your best, you know. Be the person that always does 110%. Even if they're not paying you enough, still do 110%. Because at the end of the day, your who you are, you know, your integrity and who you are is what people will remember. People will not want to always remember what you said or what you did, but they will remember the way you make them feel. And if people feel like you're trustworthy, then, you know, you're going to continue to have a good relationship with those people. So I'm rambling a little bit, but these are all just things that are coming to me in the moment. But yeah. And if you feel like you're going down the wrong path, figure out how to pivot and ask yourself, is it these people that's not right? Is it this content? Is it this genre? What is it about this I'm not enjoying? And how can I pivot? How can I get off this path, you know? So you have to ask yourself honest questions. There's a lot of that. You have to do a lot of that. Ask yourself honest questions. And then maybe talk to people also who have common beliefs or common interests, and, you know, have conversations with them and say, hey, you know, I'm feeling like this, you know, you know me, like, am I making a weird choice here? Am I seeing this right? You know, give me some perspective, you know? So it's good to have good people, a circle of people around you, for sure. So anyway, so there you go. That. I hope that was no more than 5 minutes.
Wise words. We could keep going, I'm sure, and you'd give us more. But anyway, we will come up with some quote cards, and we'll share those with you. Good Great. Social fodder. Great quotes.
Sounds great.
Great quotes. Ryan, so good to meet with you and spend some time. Thank you for taking time with our students. Some live, many more after the fact. Post live, we'll watch this. But we appreciate you being on Mentorship Mike. Thanks again.
Yeah. And by the way, if anyone ever has a question or whatever, jump on Instagram, Ryan_director. I'm pretty good at checking it. So if you want to ask me a question, I will do my very best. I try to answer everyone's questions on there. That's the best way to find me.
Incredible.
And if you like to hear me banter more, You can listen to the
your
Filmmaking Friends podcast. Episode 112 just came out. That's on Apple or wherever you can hear podcasts. And I try really hard on that podcast to invite people and ask these same kind of questions that John is asking of them, so that young filmmakers can be like, oh, is that how it works? Well, that's not how it says it in the book. So check that out, Filmmaking Friends podcast, if you're not offended by the sound of my voice.
Absolutely. That's great. We will put a link in the show notes as well for people. So good stuff. Ryan, thanks again. We will speak again soon, I'm sure.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Good luck, everybody. Go out and make a movie.